Do you ever wonder what happened to your friends from high school? I mean, you were so close. You laughed together, you cried together, you shared some of the best years of your lives together. And yet, somehow through life, you just lost touch. Now it's time to relive those moments once again. Introducing the podcast that takes you back in time to the place where it all began. This is Class Reunion. We're bringing you all the gossip, secrets, and scandals from your high school days that you won't want to miss. Join us as we catch up with old classmates and dive into the wildest stories from our high school days. From those legendary parties to the infamous cliques, we're spilling all the tea on who's who and what really went down. So grab a seat, turn your volume up, and get ready for a trip down memory lane. Class Reunion, the podcast that reunites us all. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Class Reunion. I have with me today what I call our class historian, Henry Hough. He has been somebody that in our high school has kept track of everybody through a plethora of photos from the 80s all the way through several years of our classmates. And so we rely on Henry to go back to the archives and help us remember the good old days at Grove's Wiley E High School. So welcome, Henry. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me on, Leanne.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I talked about you being the historian. Now, fun fact though, I want all the listeners to hang on till the end because I'm holding on to a little secret story that blew me away that I did not know about Henry. So you're just going to have to listen to us chat and laugh for the next 30 minutes until you hear his story because it's very, very cool. But I love, from a personal standpoint, you know, we're planning our 40th class reunion this year. And it seems like if there's anyone who knows from 80 to 86, is it even? I don't even know. I mean, I know you were 85, but you have photos from several years at Groves. And I want to know how you obtained all of that.
I joined the yearbook and I started as a photographer and eventually made my way up and became, editor of my senior year yearbook.
Yeah.
But I took a lot of photos. And so I'd go out and, I had assignments, as a photographer, go take pictures of, the football practice, go to the game, take some pictures. And so I did that. And we had basically as much film, back then. It's hard to imagine the days of film cameras, but like people don't have a lot of photos because it was such a pain to not to take photos back then. But because I was in yearbook and because I took photography also, we had access to a lot of film and, color film. And then I actually worked in a photo lab during my summer job.
Was this like a Taylor Hall or somewhere like that? Or
actually it was Photo Fest in downtown Birmingham.
Oh, yes.
Right? And, I'd see like Grove's parents there too. It was really a lot of fun working there. And so I worked at a photo lab. I could buy film for a discount. I could take pictures. We had access to film for yearbook. I took thousands and thousands of photos.
You did. Yeah.
And when you think about it, like who does that? Like,
right.
I mean, I did that, but like today kids are doing that every day, every moment of every day almost. And they have an archive, but we don't have that same level of access to photographs.
Right.
And so, at the end of every year in the yearbook, all that stuff was getting tossed otherwise. So I grabbed a bunch of it. I grabbed all the photos I took, and I had classmates and friends through the years, like Kelly Como was a photographer, and he was kind enough to send me all his photos and negatives that he took when he was in high school. And I had all those scanned too. And so because I knew a bunch of the yearbook photographers and stuff, and had a lot of my own photos, I was able to accumulate a pretty good library of photos. And I posted most of those on my Facebook page. I did that some time ago.
I know, but it was right, Henry, when Facebook, at least for a lot of us, was taking off and more of us were joining. I think I want to say like 07 or 08 or something like that, because I remember that very, very well. And that just got everybody connected even more so. So that was just such a cool thing that you did to connect all different grades at Groves. It was really neat. And I just want to go back and say, yes, you scanned these.
Well, I didn't actually. I sent them out to a service.
But still, like, think of how it's evolved. Like, it wasn't a little chip that you put in you have thousands of photos that but that's even sweeter that you did it, that you sent out to have scanned. Yeah. How lucky are we? I mean, it's very cool.
Yeah. And I've got like a lot more photos that, because when you're in a yearbook, right. And you take, like, you go take a photo of the game, but you take a couple rolls of photos and I tried to put just the best ones.
Right.
And it didn't all come out good. So, but there's like, Every photo I posted, there's a dozen or 2 dozen more that I haven't posted.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know. And because you're only having a few that make it into the yearbook, but which, by the way, my senior yearbook's right behind me on the table. I'm using religiously for this reunion. Did you have a teacher? You talked about photography. Did you have a teacher that was influential in that? Because did you have a love of photography, or you just fell into it as an extracurricular? Probably. I know you're very outgoing, and even in college, you were this kind of person that brought people together. But
Well, yeah, I mean, my father had a camera and I was taking pictures, before photography. So I kind of loved it, but it wasn't quite the same. I mean, once you have things to take pictures of,
right.
and people and the school and all that things going on in the school, it was kind of different. And Mrs. Rafalski, the yearbook and journalism teacher,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was great. She really, I was actually a really shy, awkward kid. I probably am still awkward today, but like I didn't really know how to talk to adults or girls or anything like that. But being a photographer helped me break out of that shell, or at least have an excuse, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. And so Mrs. Rafalski definitely had a big impact. Actually, a lot of the teachers at Groves, Mr. Klein, I think in particular as well.
Yes.
But a lot of teachers that, Groves had, it was really a terrific school. And just,
Mm-hmm.
Having gone to, college, and then, my kids are in college, and we are in a good school system, but the teachers, we have a lot, there are a lot of good things, but sometimes it's not all good. But I don't remember Groves being a place like it was very good. The teachers were, all my teachers that I can remember were excellent.
And I look back and I think about, we caught a lot of them because several of them are still on Facebook. We caught a lot of them in their early career, and they were energetic and well, not everybody was. I think of my friend, Mrs. Kennedy, but most of them were very young when you think about it, and they treated us so well and had us think outside the box a lot. And that's not very common now, because we're going to talk about like the difference with your kids now and mine. It's such a state curriculum. And so that freedom to just go off the beaten path, or maybe change the curriculum mid semester, that right isn't given to any of the teachers now. It's all like, you have to take the state exam to pass for the next grade, and I have to cover X, Y, and Z, and I can't veer from that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's the case now too. We have a lot of the teachers not teaching to the test, but covering the material that students are going to be tested on, because ultimately a lot of things, funding and a lot of things get tied into the performance of their classes in these exams.
Yeah.
So I do feel it feels more exam driven today.
Yeah.
And then it felt, I mean, it's hard to know, like I wasn't really paying attention to a lot of things.
I know. So I have to ask this as just an open question out of curiosity, and I've asked it to a few people of different nationalities. Did you ever get a sense that you were in a school of like predominantly white kids? I just didn't think about it back then, but I'm not in your shoes, so it had to seem a little odd.
Yeah, I did. I don't think I really noticed that way. I mean, yes, in some cases, because sometimes people would make, racial.
They did.
Yeah.
What are their names? We're riding at dawn.
I don't know if it was Grove's kids necessarily, but like, sometimes it was because I was Asian.
Or
right?
Birmingham, or the whole county, maybe. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the slanty eyes thing, I do remember, I don't remember who, but I remember people with like kids would do that thing. And I don't know if I felt hurt, or I don't know what it was. It was just like, no one likes to be made fun of.
Yes.
And it was just another thing.
If you're overweight, if you're all sorts of things, we all had those insecurities. But I often ask, because as diverse as Oakland County was, and has continued to be since I left, it's much more diverse. I look back at some of my friends that I've interviewed, and I realize, oh, you were the one African-American in the class, or you were the one, and so I was like, I guess I step back now and go, wow, back then that had to have been different,
Yeah, I don't know how aware, kids are much more aware of these types of things now, I think. But like back then, was I really aware? I mean, I probably at some level, had some awareness, but it was just another kid trying to get by, playing with the kids on the block, And now come to think of it, right? Like you're right. Like on our street, I don't remember any other person of anyone else on our street except, white kids.
Right.
Exactly. No minorities except me and
And
our
you,
family.
what was your area again?
Well, I grew up on Shoreham,
Oh, that's
and
right. Okay.
right around the corner from Groves. And then we moved, when I went to Groves, we moved up to like Corn and Inkster.
Okay.
So, and then by that time, that Bernadine Hu was living in our subdivision.
Mm-hmm.
So at least some other Asian families, but for the most part, it was still white. I don't remember many other people of color.
Mm-hmm. But I'm glad that it didn't give a significant negative impact to you.
Yeah, I don't think it did. I mean, every kid gets teased about
Right.
something or another, and I never
Right.
felt it was that much about my race.
Yeah, that's excellent. You also were musically inclined as well. So you were in orchestra in high school, correct? Or
I was one of the two people in my grade, I think, in the orchestra, the string orchestra. Anyway, but yeah, no, I always loved music. And I still love music, but I really enjoyed orchestra. And Mr. Wade was the conductor. I hear he passed away recently.
mm-hmm.
But that helped. And actually, one thing I really liked about orchestra was that you were in class with people of all different grades. It wasn't just like people in
Right.
your grade. And that was really fun, actually, to meet people and to hang out with, older or younger, students.
That's how I remember, like people say, how did you know that person? Well, I know upper class and lower class because they were either in the same sports or plays or music. So I definitely knew who Henry was. Let's talk about the funny part of going to college. So Henry and I talked about applying for college and how like on our own we were to do this huge endeavor that was going to shape the next 4 years of our lives. And you said you applied to 2 colleges, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. I look back and it's like shocking today that that doesn't happen now, probably.
I did 3. That's it. And I did
Yeah.
only 3 because one I didn't get into. And yeah, I mean, it was, you really didn't hear about the angst of, you either got a big packet in the mail or a little envelope saying, thank you for applying. And you went to the mailbox to look for that big welcome packet. And that was how we found out.
Yeah. No email, no, nothing else. But
No.
it was what it was.
No TikTok or Instagram to show like you're all families gathered around. I don't even think my parents knew what colleges I even applied to at the time. But in contrast, let's talk about, so you have your kids and you have to do more than one. You have to be on top of your game. You have to have connections and talk about how you even now have counselors outside of the school that help you get into certain schools. I found that fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I have 3 kids. They're all in college now, but we had college counselors for all of them, mostly because we'd heard that other parents were hiring college counselors. So we're like, it sounded like a good idea because, if you ask your kid to do something, are they going to listen to you?
Yeah.
And then we'd have to follow all the deadlines and, know when the SATs were, which is just this extra layer of, if you have a busy job, it's like, how can you keep track of all that stuff? And so we just thought it was a good idea. We talked to some other parents. They're like, oh, here's so-and-so. And we hired our friends, counselors and whatnot. And it was great because they kept your kids on track with all the schedules. They knew more details about it, right?
Yeah.
I knew some stuff like, okay, on a multiple choice quiz on the SAT. Actually, I don't even remember the details. Should you answer every question or should you guess at the questions you don't know about?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember all that stuff now.
No.
And, and the counselors can give you kind of at least some level of advice about that. And certainly about actually one of the counselors said, you should take this SAT because this SAT, you can actually request your answers and you can then look at and the test and you can look at how you did. And I think it's only one a year. And I didn't know that.
Oh my gosh.
So, and then you can figure out where you had weaknesses. And if you then want to take it again, what we should focus on. So other than just getting a score, and I had no idea, our college counselor knew, and that's exactly what we did. I'm not sure exactly what the process was, but it was the special SAT once a year.
Henry, I had mono when I took my ACT or SAT. I can't remember which one. And I remember my mom's like, oh, Leanne, you should retake that because you had mono. And I said, okay. And I had a worse score. I did better when I had mono. I submitted my test scores from when I had mono, not when I was recovered, because apparently I lost a few brain cells. But isn't that weird? I did worse the second time.
Well, you're probably trying extra hard because
Yes.
you're sick, and you're working extra hard to overcome that.
Yes. Yes. So 3 kids, we talked about how the beauty of having 3 different children, and you moved, we're going to get to college, but we're going to go to Massachusetts, your current day real quick. You chose that because of college, which we're going to discuss, but you carried on the musical inclination to be in 3 different orchestras today, or what are you involved in? I look at Facebook and I'm astounded by all the things that you're involved in.
Oh, it's fun. And I play viola now in most orchestras, or violin, which I played in growing up. But I do play in actually 5 different orchestras over the year, but 3 during the school year.
That's incredible.
Well, part of it was me being overeager after my youngest daughter, like, we became empty nesters, right?
Okay.
And kind of agreeing to, sub in or, play in an orchestra. And then I really liked it. I liked the conductor. I liked the music. So I kind of said, well, can I play as a regular next year? And that happened to 2 different orchestras. That's why I'm in 3 now. Because in the spring earlier this year, we need some violas. Can you play? And so I'm like, sure, I'll play this concert. And then I'm like, oh, wow. Well, I like what you're playing and I like what you have next year. So can I play? So I'm in the Rivers Symphony Orchestra, the Reading Symphony Orchestra, and the Carlisle Chamber Orchestra during the school year. And I play in the Firebird Pops Orchestra, which is a summer, fall, winter thing. And then the MIT Summer Philharmonic, which is just during the summer. And I love pops music. Actually, 2 of my orchestras do 1 pops concert a year. And then the other orchestra, the Firebird Pops, is all pops.
Yeah.
And I love Broadway. I love show tunes. I love movie music. It's all really terrific. And I love music generally, but like, we'll play songs from Wicked. We played the James Bond theme.
Oh, very cool.
It's really fun music. And it's music that people know and enjoy.
That's beautiful. My son actually played viola through school. And I remember, this was when I thought he was going to be a genius. They said that a viola is not common. And so that they crave those scholarships because a lot of people are violin, cello, and viola is a unique sound. It's hard to describe it to people, but I loved when he would play. Of course, he dropped out of it, but I thought that was I learned all about viola when he started to take it. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and it is an instrument because violin's a sexy string instrument. Because
Right.
There's all this great repertoire, solos, all this stuff written for violin, and not so much. There's some, but not so much written for viola. And in fact, the butt of all jokes in an orchestra are the violists. Like, you find any musical joke, the violist. So I actually find them funny. And but the joke is that violas are failed violinists. Kind of. And so no one plays viola.
Rude.
On the flip side, like, every orchestra almost always needs a viola.
Sure. And then while I sit here and talk about his accolades, he's also brilliant in the engineering world. And do you want to talk about the business that you founded? I realize you've sold it since then, but like, you did start this business as well. I mean, we could be here all day talking about all the great things Henry has done in his life, but I do want to talk about that as well, because that's very, very cool.
So I started a kids education business in science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. So it was called Einstein's Workshop. And I started about 12 or 13 years ago. It grew out of a robotics team that I started for when my son, who's now 24 almost, was when he was a 4th grader. That grew from, I think, 12 kids the first year. We just sent one email to kind of the school, and all these kids wanted to be on it. So we had 2 robotics teams. It grew to, I don't remember, was it 80 the next year? And then it grew to 120, 130. And we added a program for younger kids that added another 80 kids. That's so cool. in the 3rd year, we had over 200 kids doing these robotics programs. So it was part of the first robotics program, which is a worldwide program, actually, that has robotics competitions. So we really just glommed onto what was already there. It wasn't like I created that. But, the kids and parents were so excited by the fact that they had access to these programs. They kept asking, like, what do we do next? What do we do next? And I'm like, I was running it during the fall on a volunteer basis with another friend who was also a dad with a kid in the program. And it was like, oh, yeah, come back next year, because we were burned out after the program. But then it was like, I wonder, I think it's something that like it's just not available in many places to have, robotics, engineering programming classes available for young kids. And so I was like, well, maybe I can start a business around this. And I did. And I went and rented a 7,000 square foot facility, and we had 6 classrooms and a big open space birthday party room. Several computer labs were part of those classrooms. And we started teaching programming, robotics, Lego, Minecraft. Actually, we started having Minecraft classes, which were very, very popular. Really, if Minecraft weren't around, our shop would have not be what it is. But we were probably one of the first kind of places like that to offer kids and teach them about Minecraft and not just play, but like we try to come up with, educational things they could do in Minecraft.
Which is, when you say kids, I mean, you also are opening up this world to little girls as well. Not that, it's not just all boys do this, but you really opened it to everybody to enjoy. And that I was always in, like I mentioned to you earlier, with the software world, with the STEM programs and things, just women weren't in software like I was when I first started. So you really opened doors for these young girls too.
We tried, so the robotics teams, though, unfortunately, it was mostly boys, 80% boys. But what we did was we actually started, when the 3D printers started becoming popular, we actually started offering classes. And actually, we wrote our own software for creating 3D models. And it's called BlocksCAD. It's still out there. You can go to blockscad3d.com and use it for free. But we created that and we started teaching classes, and we found in those classes, the mix was actually, sometimes more girls than boys. And, it helped really encourage the desire to learn more math, because it's a program. It's like Scratch. I don't know if you know about the Scratch programming language, but it's got a very similar interface, but you kind of have to program your shapes. So if you wanted to say, make a snowman, which is one of our introductory exercises, you have to know, it's 3 spheres of different diameter. And then some are higher in space than others. So you have to know how high you should take the head and move it up, because you have to tell it using this programming tool, how high to translate the head in the Z direction, because that, Z is kind of up. And then how high to translate the mid part of the body. And, if you want to put buttons or a nose or a hat, you have to know what shapes those are and program those in. And so it was a way to teach programming and math at the same time, and encourage kids who might not otherwise respond to other ways of doing math instruction to actually build a desire to like learn the math, so they can build in this program the shape or the object they want to build, like a Pokemon thing or a Star Wars thing, or, a better snowman, or anything they can think of. And cool. And then we can print it for them, right, on a 3D printer, and then they can hold the thing that they designed. And
you don't need snow. You can build a snowman anywhere. That's really cool. I mean, I know you can build a house, but like, that's very, very cool, because we've talked about this too. The way in which learning has changed based on ADHD or people on the spectrum or whatever, all of a sudden this visual, tactical, oral type of teaching model has come to light, where, teachers now are aware that kids learn in different ways. We were just flatlined. We were just, you had to be at a certain level of understanding for each grade without realizing that the classroom has 35 different individuals, right? And that's what's really cool about what you're doing, because it's very visual, hands-on. They can see the end result, and that's very cool. You have since sold the business, but it still is around, correct?
It's still around.
Yeah.
Actually, the woman who bought it was a woman who helped me start the business, so she was kind of like the co-founder.
Yeah.
And she left for a while, and then she wanted to come back with her daughter. And this is a fun story. Where her daughter started in the program that I helped set up when she was a kindergartner.
Aww.
And when she graduated from high school, this is when she approached me. They wanted to run the business together as a mother-daughter business. And
see, this is what look what you did do for women. This is great.
Well, yeah, I know. We always were trying to encourage young girls, in STEM.
Yeah. Now, when you talk about engineering or the IT side of things as well, you have a current day job that is incredibly intriguing to me, because I told you I sold software. But when you said to me one day, I can't meet because I'm going to be in a deposition, and I thought, somebody is suing Henry. And I was like, do I ask? I don't know what's going on, because I thought he was in orchestra. So explain how you are an asset to the world of law for companies.
Well, I don't know about it if it's an asset really, but like, so my job today is it's called I'm an expert witness. And what that entails is it's a very specific area. So when two companies sue each other, it's over patent infringement. The patents are very specific. They're in a particular technology. So both sides, the attorneys for both sides hire experts in the field of that technology area. So if it's a lawsuit about mobile phone user interfaces, or if it's a lawsuit about, or a patent about video streaming, then the lawyers are going to have to go and find someone who's been in the field of video streaming, or, user interfaces for mobile devices, or, also whatever the topic areas. And patents are in a, huge variety of areas. There's over 10 million patents now, and they cover lots of different technology areas. But so the two companies sue each other. It's about like video streaming, and they have to go find someone who knows about video streaming and has worked in it. And so happened when I went to grad school, I actually helped set up some of the earliest video streaming demos. Might have been the first video available on the web back around 1993, 1994 timeframe. You could actually turn on a camera, like go to the website that I helped set up, and turn on video in my office and watch me sitting in my office, kind of, working at my computer, or, whatever I'm doing. And because of that, now I am pulled into a lot of patent lawsuits that involve video streaming because I have a background in that area. And so our job is, there's a patent, there's someone saying, this is my patent. I'm suing you on it because you are using what is in my patent. And so I could write, I could be on the plaintiff side, and I could write, here is why I think they're using the patent owner's pen. I might be on the other side, and I'd say, well, and it would be to rebut their allegations. And I might be on the other side, and it'd be, here's why your patent's invalid. And there are reasons that a patent might be invalid. Like someone else actually did it before you, and the patent office just didn't happen to notice that, or find the reference that showed how it would be obvious how obvious the patent was at the time, and that should never have been issued. So the technical experts in the field in on both sides are writing these reports about that, and they, and it's a battle of kind of facts, and we get deposed on them. I write a report, then the other side has the right to depose me about what I said and ask me questions. And so I have been in over 100 depositions. I don't even know how many now.
Crazy.
Yeah. And so fortunately, it's not because I've gotten sued over 100 times.
Yeah. Clarify. Yeah.
Because I'm working, for either, a defendant that has gotten sued, or, the other way around. I'm working for the patent owner or plaintiff. But
I just want to say kudos to you, because streaming is part of our vocabulary. And here you are, the founder, part of that whole founding process. Very, very cool. Like, I think young people probably take it for granted of where did it all begin? Well, let me introduce you to Henry Hough. Like, I mean, that's crazy that was back then.
Yeah, we don't claim to have, like, a lot of people had the idea and they were working on it and had demos in the lab and things like that. But I think we were the first to take our demos and integrate them with the website. In fact, I think that website I helped set up might have been one of the first 100 or a couple hundred websites ever. I
mean, take it. Yeah, run with it.
And so we other people there was another group that had, like, you could, some sort of Coke cam, or like a vending machine that you could, like, see a picture of, and so there were little things like that. But we're like, hey, we have video demos. Let's let people watch our video demos and watch our live cameras. And so that's what we did.
So much has changed. That's what I think is so impressive. You were right on the cusp of all that early technology. That's so cool.
It was a lot of fun to be at a place like MIT during that time, because we were, Mark Andreessen came because it was MIT.
Yeah.
And he gave it up there. And we were one of the earliest people to hear about the, Mosaic and whatever he was doing.
Right.
At NCSA.
Yeah. All of your touch points at that school had to have been people in the know that later on in life you had to go back and go, wow, I can't believe I met this person. So Massachusetts Institute of Technology, we were talking about applying for college. You just asked your dad, hey, do you think this is a good school to apply to? I still think that's hilarious.
That's right. I remember just getting, and you probably remember too, like getting loads of mail from different colleges.
Yes. Mine were
actually,
all community colleges, but yes, I got them. No.
I looked through them, and the one from MIT looked pretty cool. I had no idea what MIT
Yeah,
was.
because it's Massachusetts. Had you even been there?
No. And I never even went to visit before I went to school there.
Yeah.
And so, I looked at it, and it was a pretty cool looking brochure. So I think I asked my dad, is MIT a good school? And he's like, yeah.
It's a great school.
I didn't know other than what I saw, and it looked fun. And
yeah.
Maybe it looked like my people. Like,
right.
I was kind of very geeky and nerdy.
Yeah.
And,
well, I should say yes, but you were smart was what you were. Yeah.
And I liked what I saw in the brochure. I don't even remember what was in it, but I liked what I saw. And I asked my dad, and he said, yeah, it's a good school. And like, should I apply there? He's like, sure, why not? I remember my high school counselor, he said, don't apply there. You'll never get in.
I know. We talked about that.
Yeah.
I think it's Peter Del Favro for those.
I don't remember, but like, I applied to U of M. That was only my other school.
Yeah. Which is crazy. And talk about too, you were a good student, but we were talking about, applications now. You have to be beyond a 4.0. I don't even know what the upper scale is, 5.7 or whatever. You have to be all AP advanced classes. I had a friend whose daughter she got a middle school award. She was president of the class in high school. She had all these awards. Excellent grade point average, nothing. She couldn't get into anything. It's crazy. All the extra things you need on top of just good grades.
Yeah. It's a real challenge, and it's really tough for kids these days.
Yeah.
And, I think back and like, who knows if I'd ever be able to get into, the schools that I got into today. But, the other thing is, of course, because the kids are applying to 4 times or more schools than we used to.
Yeah.
Admit rates have dropped by that equivalent factor.
Yeah.
Right? And now makes it much crazier. Like some of these schools have like a 5% admit rate.
I know. I don't know how to fix that issue, but it is an issue. But talking about being shy and not being able to talk to girls, it's funny because you had all the photos. You said you were very involved in MIT still and was with all of your classmates, and you meet this beautiful wife of yours. So you did have game later on in life.
I was lucky, like it was my office mate's girlfriend's friend.
Yeah.
So it's the old way of meeting people through your friends, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And so I was lucky to have that happen.
Yes. And 3 beautiful children. So you go on to this career in college. And as I was talking to Henry, I was mentioning all these things. And I said, Henry, I can't believe you've done this and you've done that. And it's just such a well-rounded portfolio. And then Henry said, yeah, but I should probably mention one other little thing that I did. I don't know if you are familiar with it. And he proceeds to tell me what he did at MIT. And let's talk about your movie role first and then why you got the role. So he's been in a film called 21, and I have to read this cast because of course I watched the movie 21. I knew what he was talking about right away. It's a card counting game. Kevin Spacey, Kate Bosworth, Jeff Ma, Josh Gad, Lawrence Fishburne. I mean, he has, the cast is crazy large and great, and it's a real cool thriller behind the scenes of casinos and card counting with blackjack and things like that. So you get this opportunity to try out for a role in this film, and it ends up being the classic line of the movie 21. So talk about your role and then the backstory on how you got that.
Yeah. So I play in that movie a dealer in a Chinatown casino.
Yes.
So,
30 minutes in for anybody that wants to rent it. It's 30 minutes in.
And it's where the star comes to play blackjack. He's getting tested. And when he hits a blackjack at my table, I deal to him. I yell, winner, winner, chicken dinner. And that's my line.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Come on! Everybody in America across the country knows winner, winner, chicken dinner. And Henry Hough delivered that line.
And I have to say, it was fantastic writing by the movie writers because, there's a backstory that supposedly that was like used in Vegas, but all right. So the real backstory is I played on that team the movie was about. I was at MIT. I kind of did that. And of course the movie.
You did it. You were on the team.
the movie made everything more dramatic and glamorous, but I did participate in the actual team that was going at MIT.
I stop right there. That is the coolest thing ever. I can't even believe you did that. I mean, it's impressive. It's not illegal, by the way, people. I mean, it is when you get caught excessive amounts and things like that. But the act of it, of knowledge of counting cards, is not an illegal practice. It's just when you try to turn a table for profit and stay there and make money, right?
Well, actually, none of that is actually illegal either. Like, so you're just using your brain. We are counting the cards, but we're not remembering every card we saw. But there's a very specific system we use, which was known at the time. It wasn't like we made it up.
Okay.
And then the team play, like we did team play like they did in the movie, which is, people would be sitting at tables, and I did that most often, which is I'd sit there, and when the cards got good, I'd make a signal and have a big player sit down at the table so he could bet it up.
What was the signal? I saw the hands behind the back was in the movie.
Yeah, that may have been similar to the signal. Those words that they used in the movie, like those were the same words we would use in a conversation to try to pass the count to the other player that just sat down.
Okay.
In the movie, I think it's 17, or it's Hey Henry. The other
they did say Hey Henry. Yeah.
It's Hey Henry. I read. Did I tell you I read about this place in a magazine or something like that?
Yes, it was. That was at the Chinatown Casino, because I was like, "Whoa, they're using Henry's name right in the movie too." Yeah.
Which wasn't in the script, by the way. The actor, I was talking to the actor beforehand, and he just threw that in there. So anyway, so magazine is 17 because 17 magazine. So if I were to use the word, magazine,
so clever.
That's why I use the word magazine. And we had this whole system of how to pass the count. We had both signals, like putting your hands here, like this would be, I don't know if you can see that.
Yes, I can. Yeah.
19, right?
Oh, that was an actual number. Okay.
That was an actual number because I have 4 and it's, 0 where on the arm I am. And so the problem with that is that can be picked up by the video. So if they watch these videos,
I was thinking that's kind of obvious, even for someone like me who doesn't do math, but
yeah. Well, we might put our hands like this, or this is a little weird, like 2 fingers.
Yeah,
like
right.
So we wanted something not so obvious and also captured on the cameras.
Yes.
Right? So we made up these words, like if we talk, I had this great omelet for breakfast. Omelet, eggs is a dozen, 12. So we had these keywords that we could use in, table banter. Of course,
it's kind of fun.
Yeah. And so we'd have all these words that we could just use in sentences. And that's how we told the person sitting down that's what the count was.
Yeah.
So they could make an appropriate bet. And
I can't remember if it was hair is touching your hair or your eye. One of them was Get Out Now. So did you have a Get Out Now?
Yeah, this is Get Out Now.
Okay.
And we got that signal before. So there were signals like that. You couldn't obviously like get out now, right?
Right.
So you want to, and by the way, you also didn't want to show that you knew all these other people who were around the casino.
Right. Right. So I'm just itching my eye, by the way. I just had no intention. Get off the podcast now. Yeah. And you talked about, I just found this so cool, y'all. I had no idea. I know some people at Groves know you may have been in the film, but I had no idea. I already loved everything that you had accomplished. But when you threw that in, the curveball in my mind was like, it was such a favorite movie of mine, but you would have like bags of cash.
We did, because it's kind of a cash business. And so,
yeah.
I mean, there was a time where I'd have, a bag of chips that were worth, $100,000 or so. And, because, if someone went to a casino and you were playing and they had all this cash and you knew someone's going to go back to the casino the next week, and you just keep those chips and you give it to someone else. You give it to the next person, right?
I'd be paranoid.
I was. It's very,
and thrilling at the same time. I mean, gambling's a thrill, which is why many people are addicted. It's a whole, can you beat the, yeah.
And I don't think I ever got over the nervousness of carrying around large amounts of money. And ultimately, it's kind of why I stopped playing.
Okay. How many years did you play?
I played probably a year.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I wasn't playing for that long, but like a lot of times you actually don't have a long life, because once the casino spots you,
yeah,
and you become part of their database, it's very hard to play again. unless you have some like way you can dress up or, change your appearance or something like
And
that.
I'm sure it goes to all the casinos, right? So it's not just
Yeah.
an MGM or, it goes into Vegas database, I'm sure.
Yeah, there was a detective agency that tracked this called Griffin, and so
Okay.
if your name got into Griffin, all the casinos that subscribe to this detective agency's book would get the information.
Okay.
And sometimes you get there and they'd see you at one casino,
Right.
and they'd call a bunch of other casinos all down the strip saying, so and so's here, look out for them. Because it's usually the ones that are co-owned by the same company because there's a bunch, and so if once you got found out, it became very hard to play.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the players' lives weren't that long. My office mate who started this, he had multiple lives, and he, there's a book about the team, and there's a second book about the team by the same author, Ben Mesrick. The second book is all about my office mate, and
What's the name of that?
I forget the name. I forget the name of the second book.
I'll look it up and link it. That's cool.
But the inside covers of the book are all, are actually the actual IDs that my office mate used when he was gambling, right? And so
just a fascinating. I mean, you have all these other things that are very unique, but the skill level, everything involved, very cool. So naturally, when you decided, you didn't. A lot of the players didn't get any compensation once the main guy decided to trade secrets for less jail time or whatever that person was experiencing. He sold the rights to the story, correct, or something? And
yeah, that was actually Jeff Ma, who was also in the movie.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He met an author at a party, and he told him the story. And this one story was the beginning of this author's career. It's Ben Mesrick, and he's since made movies like he wrote the movie, I think, The Social Network.
Oh yeah.
The most recent movie, Dumb Money, he wrote the book, and he wrote.
He's got a niche. That's yeah. He's very good.
Yeah, but it all started with this story, and so Jeff met Ben at this party, and Jeff told him the story, and he was an aspiring writer, so he wrote up an article for Wired magazine.
Oh yeah,
which was a huge hit, and and based on that, he turned it into a book, and it got turned into a movie, and that really was the beginning of Ben. I think really the beginning of Ben's stellar career as a writer.
But you sought an opportunity, again, still thinking like an MIT aficionado, and said, okay, I wasn't the guy who cashed in on the main storyline, but I'm going to get in this movie so I can at least make a little bit of money from playing a character. And you audition.
Yeah, so the movie happened to be filmed right here in the Boston area.
Yeah.
I had a friend I worked with as an engineer. He was also an actor, and he would get casting calls. And he told me because he knew I played on the teams.
Yeah.
Like this was years later, so a lot of people eventually knew I played.
Yeah.
And he knew I played, so he forwarded me the casting call. And the casting call was literally for, I think it said, Asian casino dealer.
Right.
Middle-aged Asian casino dealer. And I read down or blackjack dealer, and I
winner, it's me.
Because we practiced so much and we were in casinos so much that we could all deal just the way a professional casino dealer could deal blackjack, right? And we have all the banter. We knew all the banter. We knew all the style. All the little things that the dealers do. So I could deal. So I went to the audition, and I told the casting director, who's auditioning me, that I was on the team, and I could actually deal like a real, fluidly, like a real dealer could. And so they hired me for it, and I was really thrilled. And there was actually another friend that I made later who actually also auditioned for that, but he never had dealt blackjack before. And, he started, practicing a few days before, but you can tell someone who's been dealing, 2 days versus, a long time. And so I got the role. He got the role as an extra in the movie. But then he actually went on to get lots of roles in lots of movies. So he's an engineer also, and an actor, and he's making movies now. But so I got the role, and actually, if you watch the director's cut of the movie, they actually mentioned that I was on the team during my scene.
Oh, they do. Okay, I've got to look for that too, because I was like, listen, if there's any credentials aside from the fact that you knew what you were doing with the cards, you were on the darn team. I mean, of course, Of course they're going to hire you. And then to deliver the classic line, it's just a very cool story, story.
Yeah. And as I said earlier, that line was made up, even though there was a backstory about the line that it was used in Vegas.
Yeah.
None of us who played in Vegas ever heard that line while we were playing, right?
Yeah.
So I think they made it up, brilliant writing,
Right.
you know, into movies, you know, sports broadcasters say it, like everyone like has probably heard that at some point.
Yes.
In fact, I get emails from people like, "Hey, I was in the bar and these guys were saying winner, winner, chicken dinner." I told them
Everybody
I'm the
does.
guy who said that in the movie. So
You don't think I haven't told everybody that I'm interviewing you? That I was like, you're not going to believe this story. And I went to school with them. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Henry, I adore you, and I just have had so much fun. I know that's going to be a lot of fun for our listeners to know a little bit about you, but you know, aside from you're a mathematician, you're a musician, you're, you know, engineering, it's just been a great, well-rounded life that you have led. And I just look forward to seeing what you're going to do in the future. I've enjoyed talking to you. This has been a great story. So thank you for all you did at Groves for the photos. We appreciate all the keepsakes. And here's to 21, right?
thank you. And thank you now for what you're doing to kind of, you know, archive all this stuff that we did too.
Aw, thanks. Well, you're the best. Let's keep in touch. And thank you for listening to Class Reunion.
All right, friends, that's it for this episode of Class Reunion Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show, write us a review, and share this podcast with a friend. Until next time.